Holly Wade. She's the executive director of the Research Center at the National Federation of Independent Business, and she's joining us right now. And Holly, I want to start off with the idea here that overall, this seems to be a relatively healthy backdrop for some of these companies, but they clearly have some worries here about their hiring costs, about their input costs, and more importantly, how that's going to affect sales going forward.
Absolutely. The index number, there's a lot underneath it. There are historic level highs, historic level lows in there. The highs are certainly related to the tight labor market, the number of businesses that have an open position available right now, and hiring plans are still strong. And they are having a difficult time filling those positions and attracting applicants. And it's incredibly competitive. They're having to increase compensation, and inflation is one of the big challenges that they face.
Holly, as costs rise, what are these small businesses having to pull back on? It's really interesting that we've seen the owner of Facebook talk about, well, advertising limitations to a certain degree, and we know that Facebook's very focused on small businesses. Is this somewhat a tell? Are they having to dial back on marketing and some other areas that they usually focused on?
Well, it's still competitive, so they're having to adjust appropriately to absorb some of these costs and pass those costs on to their customers. This last report showed a bit of a decline in earnings, and the earnings, the biggest contributor to lower earnings, was related to higher prices. So they're absorbing those costs as much as possible while still able to operate their business and stay competitive in their industry. It is a huge challenge for many small business owners who are having to do all of this themselves.
Holly, one of the things that we always try to do is broaden this out as well. And some of the key headlines that I read from analysis this morning that said if they were able to hire more, sales would be higher. So top line now, revenue is being affected. And then small businesses, we know, create more jobs than anyone. Are you starting to get this sense that the slowdown to the top line is starting to impact hiring decisions and then impact, of course, maybe as you think more big picture about this economy?
Absolutely. In other surveys that we've conducted, looking a bit more in depth into what are some of the issues related to the tight labor market and supply chain disruptions, is the lost sales opportunities that they're experiencing and not able to fully serve their customers. And that is one of the biggest frustrations that small business owners have, is that the lost sales opportunities are significant for many of them because they're unable to fill those positions and also secure those inventories and supplies that they desperately need.
Well, how are they doing on the inventory with regards to some of those companies that we know actually stockpiled because they were so afraid that they weren't going to be able to get what they needed either for the holiday season or beyond? And we've seen a lot of anecdotal stories of these little stores that basically their back rooms are just, bulging with all of these products here. Is there any general sense here that they could end up being stuck with some of that merchandise?
That is certainly a huge concern for many small business owners. It's difficult managing inventory expectations in this environment. And so if they're able to secure inventories and there's strong demand, they try to, secure as much as possible. But certainly they don't want to be left with too many supplies or inventory and not have anywhere to go with them and have to lower prices to move them off the shelves. But right now, most of them are just having a very hard time securing what they need. And unfortunately, many of them don't see any of this easing, these supply chain disruptions that they're facing, easing up anytime soon. Well into 2022, they're anticipating having these challenges.
Holly, it's always great to get that inside track from you. Of course, Holly, of the National Federation of Independent Business.